Rekalibrierung. Insbesondere nach Krisen und so, wie wir sie eben auch jetzt erlebt haben, sagen sich viele Menschen, was ist eigentlich das, was ich wirklich machen möchte? Und am besten können darüber Menschen berichten, die das selber mehrfach erlebt haben. Michelle Mills-Porter ist internationale Expertin für genau diesen Fall und nicht nur gesundheitlich, sondern auch persönlich hat sie mehrere Phasen in ihrem Leben erlebt, wo sie sich mehrfach rekalibrieren musste und in manchen Fällen einfach auch rekalibrieren wollte. Sie berichtet hier aus ihrer Erfahrung, ihrer Expertise und eben auch ihren Erfahrungen genauso wie Expertisen als internationale Vortragsrednerin. Das Interview wurde in englischer Sprache durchgeführt. Recalibration. We live in a time where many people rethink their attitude towards work, what's family, what's friends, what is life in general. And we had quite a number of people asking me if I know an expert on unleashing human potential. And I do. Michelle Mills-Porter is an international expert and international speaker as well on exactly that, unleashing human potential. I saw her speak on different conferences and I always appreciate her work because she's not one of these shouty motivational speakers who only tell you it's all about believing in you and change everything by tomorrow. Her content is way better than that. So I appreciate that she takes the time to be with us today. Hello and welcome, Michelle Mills-Porter.
Thank you so much, Niels, and thank you for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you very much for taking the time. Of course, recalibration for many people now is a quite unknown moment. Many people I spoke to when I prepared for this interview said, I'm doing this job for 10 years, sometimes 15 years. How is it possible that only after 10, 15 years, I suddenly realize and find out that this is not what I should do? How is it possible that this happens right now?
I think it's a very good question, and it's because we don't take time to introspectively look at what truly and subconsciously motivates us. Mm-hmm. And I only came to this realization, Niels, by going through the same scenario myself. So if I can tell you a little bit about how I came to believe in all of this, it was because I had a very successful company that I started from scratch. And I thought that I was rocking it. I was winning all sorts of business awards and life was sweet. Decided to go on a few holidays and then found myself smack bang in the middle of the Boxing Day tsunami. Now, what happened in the face of that adversity is that I just felt differently. I didn't understand why. And it's not until you look back that you can see clearly with hindsight. And I now understand that the reason that when I got back from that, I just fell apart physically. Everything was going wrong. I didn't have the love for my business anymore and I didn't understand. But now when I look back, I realize in the face of adversity, I was woken up to what my true subconscious core values were. And I wasn't in alignment with those. My business wasn't in alignment with those. And so everything felt wrong.
And now you said, and that was a very interesting aspect of what you just said. You said what truly motivates you. Many people struggle to really find out what really motivates them. How can they find out?
Well, again, it's a really good question because it's so difficult to look at our subconscious. And if you realize how much of our thought process is conscious and how much is subconscious, it's all subconscious. There's hardly any that's actually conscious. So to dig into that world is quite difficult. The reason that adversity gives us that is because it makes us think what is important. And so what we're going through now with lockdown is, the opportunity for people to breathe, to suddenly think what is important in my life. And they're finding that things that they didn't expect are important. And most people don't want to go back to the way things were. Why? Because they're recalibrating.
When people now try to recalibrate, some people told me that they are thinking about recalibrating now, but they fear the reaction of their circumstances. Some people said, I feel that I should do something different, but I know that my father or my mother, my family, my children, my husband, my wife will tell me, look, we all have safety and security here. We have bills to cover. We have a mortgage to pay. And life isn't always fun. This is just how it's meant to be. And we should stick to what we have now because that's the safe harbor we're in and we have been there for a very long time. How should people face this kind of fear? And do you maybe have tips how they can overcome this?
Sure. Well, first of all, I don't think I properly answered your last question. So let me start by saying, introspectively looking at your own core values, trying to find out what priorities you have is one way of understanding those core values. Another one is to go and do a core values analysis somewhere, or maybe just talk to your family or your loved ones about the things that, you know, you would do if you couldn't carry on working at the moment. And yes, of course, people are adverse to change because change can be uncomfortable, change can be scary. And I'm not saying that we should all just do the only things that we want to do in life, because if that were true, Niels, then you and I and everyone else would be off on a party on a beach and not worrying about any mortgages.
Probably, yes.
And that's not, you know, it's just not, it's not realistic. So what I'm saying in terms of core values is if you understand what your true core values are, then you can make sure that whatever you're doing is aligned to that. And as long as you align what you're doing to your core values, you will be more fulfilled. The other things that happen is that you will reduce your stress. Doors will start opening for you rather than feeling like you're wading through mud. And actually performance increases, energy increases, all those positive things increase. So there really is no downside. You just need to find which your flow is, which is your flow, which is your core value to follow, and fulfill it. Do the same job you're doing, but do it for an organization with different core values, if that's, you know, where you're going with this. It's just about being in flow.
Yeah, exactly. And the flow, of course, has also been discovered scientifically. Mihaly published a book called Flow, exactly on this topic. And you said about talking about personality and a personality analysis. I remember that you once offered for an organization, which also I was a member of, you offered a personality analysis, which was quite helpful. I don't specifically remember the name, but I remember that the analysis was very sharp and also very helpful. Could you give a bit more information on that? Because I think that you offer one of these analysis, don't you?
I do. In fact, it's been my life's work to create these analyses, and this suite of analyses was created due to the way that I was recalibrated. What I wanted to do is I wanted to peel the onion layers back and help people to understand what their core values were. So it took a long time to understand how to do that. And I created a core values analysis, which is called Essence. And what it does is it helps people to have a leg up, really, in terms of understanding what their true subconscious core values are. And it's just based on an analysis that you do online. And there's lots of different types of those kind of things that you can do. But obviously, you know, I knew what I wanted to create. And for me, that's captured everything. I also have behavior profile analyses that I've created that help us to understand our prominent qualities. And that's a deeper dive into, you know, what work we should be doing or what roles we should be doing. And then I've got a host of another analyses, including one for 10 to 14-year-olds to be able to navigate their relationships as well. So that's my work now. That's how I've changed. Rather than running this marketing company that I was doing with loads of awards and loads of glitz and loads of glamour and all that kind of stuff, now I help people unlock themselves and unlock their people power.
Of course, now some people will think to wrap this interview up, some people will think I need a change, but then there are often two major aspects people think of. Either it is you make one huge cut, you just go away from your job, you turn away from certain people, and you basically restart your life from one day to the other. Some people say maybe it should be a smoother transition, taking it step by step, taking it slow. What is your take on how a proper change can work and should work when it comes to a quite significant personal change? Is it like one big step and you take it from there, or would you prefer a rather smooth and slower transition?
That very much depends on your behavior profile, Niels. There are two behavior profiles in my profile. There's 4 behavior profile types. And there are 2 behavior profile types that like to be very considered about the way they do things. They like to have a clear plan. They like to know the instructions, the steps they're going to take, and they like the security. The other 2 behavior types are much more immediate. They like to make immediate changes. They like to make that swift break. So you really have to look inside. And your gut instinct is there for a reason. Your gut instinct is real. It tells you, what you should be doing. How you feel is, in terms of making your decisions. So if you feel you just want to make that big decision, then great, do it. If you want to make slow steps, then do it that way. I think the key here, though, Niels, is some of us are simply not going to have a choice.
Yeah, I fully agree. And of course, then when people are now listening to this and they think, well, I can relate to these feelings, I thought about changing as well. What are Michelle Mills Porter's top 3 tips on unleashing your own potential? And when you think about changing your life, what are your top 3 tips which you should start from right now?
Okay, so number 1, I would say, and I wish you'd have told me about this because I'd have thought of something far more intelligent. Number 1, I think, imagine that you are on a desert island. What are the 3 things that you miss more than anything in your life? And those 3 things will help you to get back in alignment with your core values. The second thing is to make sure that whatever you do in life includes those top 3 things and gives you time and energy for those 3 things. And I think the third tip would be to always think about recalibrating. We're evolving. That's what we do in life. We evolve. Don't ever think that you are who you are and that's where you're stuck. Just think about how you're going to recalibrate on a regular basis and check that you're in alignment, because that's what's going to give you fulfillment. That's what's going to give you energy, and that's what's going to give you performance.
Excellent. I, of course, will put your contact data in the show notes of this podcast. So when people like to discuss that further with you, they can get in touch with you directly. And of course, if they think about booking you as their speaker for their conference, their trainer, their coach, they can get in contact with you as well. And to wrap the whole interview up, there's only one thing for me left to say. Michelle, thank you very much for your time.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you, Niels.